Today I fucked up by warning a nurse that she might feel a little woozy. This actually happened 3 days ago, but today is my day off, so I have time to write this. I am a doctor in a hospital. One of the procedures we do is called a bone marrow biopsy. It is a procedure where we go inside the bone, where the factory of all blood cells is, and get a sample. It's done in the room at the bedside. No need for an operating room or anything. We usually use a special needle to get into the hip bone from behind as the patient is lying flat on their face. It sounds scary, but it's a fairly minor procedure. It takes about 20–30 minutes. Today I had to do this for one of my patients. Usually I require some assistance. Someone to hand me things when I am sterile and to take things from me. Anyone can do it. Usually I have an eager medical student and I explain what I am doing as I go so he can learn. Today, I didn't. So I asked for help from one of the nurses and they gave me one of the travelers who are there to help. While I am prepping the field and getting ready, I said how thankful I was for her to come and help. I had never seen her before, and I know the floor nurses fairly well at this point. That's when she told me she is a traveler. I asked if she is a Hem/Onc nurse and she said no. I asked if she ever saw a bone marrow biopsy and she also said no. I then asked if she had had lunch and she said no. So I decided it was a good idea to warn her. I said something like, just as a heads up, a lot of people seeing this for the first time get woozy, so if you start feeling it, let me know. And it's true, I have had a few nurses, med students, aides get woozy. Something about the needle pushing through the bone that gets to people. There is a scratching noise that you can audibly hear as the needle rubs against the surface of bone. People feel it in their core. It's also a very forceful procedure. Bones are hard and I have to apply a great deal of force to make my way in there. And also the fact that when we pull out the marrow, we are technically pulling fluid out of a vacuum, and that can sometimes be painful to the patient, and some viewers to behold. Boy oh boy did she not like that. She rolled her eyes and huffed and puffed at me and said, "Don't you worry about that, honey," with the full weight of the condescension that honey can carry. I have been a nurse for 15 years. Don't remember the exact number, but definitely more than 10. I have been a trauma and nurse for most of it. I have seen metal spikes and machetes pulled out of all sort of holes on patients' bodies. I think I will be all right. She was intentionally rude and antagonistic. I stopped for a second and looked at her, trying to decide how to respond. But after a split second I decided it wasn't worth it. I am not a confrontational person normally, and I have been around long enough to know that it's not worth it to engage. So I just said, okay. I genuinely didn't really care. I just wanted to finish my procedure in peace and move on to my next patient during my very busy day. Well, what do you know? Minutes into the procedure, I got my needle into the bone marrow space and I am starting to pull out the liquid marrow. This is the painful part. The patient grunted and I apologized. Not much I can do about this part. All of a sudden I hear a thud. I turned around to find said nurse on the ground out cold. I call her name. Nothing. This was obviously a problem. I had to leave my sterile field, interrupt the procedure and get help. The other nurses called a rapid response, which is an overhead page that we typically call when a patient is looking ill suddenly and we need extra hands. The nurse ended up in the emergency department. She is thankfully all right. Too long did not read. Warned my nurse that some people faint watching the procedure she was helping me with. She didn't like that and was very rude. Then she fainted watching the procedure she was helping me with. I mean, you warned her, didn't you? So you didn't do anything wrong. It was her failing to recognize where her brain draws the line of what is and isn't too much. God, I hope I never need this. This isn't a fuck up on your part. Can you guess who fucked up? Very important as someone in the medical field to always stay humble. No matter how long you are in the field, there can always come someone or something through the door that hits you like a ton of bricks. Thumbs up medium skin tone plus if you find yourself dizzy because of a procedure or something, just tell and leave. Before you are an additional problem. Hopefully the nurse learnt that now and will consider this in the next situation similar to this. I've never seen a procedure like this as I am not a medical personnel type of gal. Just the description of this is making me dizzy like a scratchy sound? No can do. And I'm not a particularly queasy person. But the idea of scratching my bones with a needle intending to pierce through said bone to pull out me bone juice. Terrifying. Y'all are gods among men to handle all that shit. Bless you and all the staff around you. As a young nurse, I got kicked out of the room during a bone marrow biopsy. Apparently I turned green before going totally ashen. The best I could do was fall on the empty bed next to the patient's bed. What happened after she recovered? I hope she apologized. Today someone else fucked up. Today I fucked up by misusing phrase, pain in the ass. Yesterday I've matched with a guy on Tinder. He's from UK. We started texting in English, even though that's not my native spoken language. We were messaging whole day and I can't tell when was the last time I enjoyed chatting with someone that much. We talked about so many things and somehow ended up telling funny childhood stories. He's mentioned his sister and asked me if I have any siblings. I said, yeah, I have an elder brother, and then added, but we haven't done so many crazy things when we were kids, because he was making pain in my ass all the time, yeah. In my entire life, never had I ever give a second thought on how to properly use pain in the ass phrase. My Tinder match started laughing so hard. I mean, I didn't hear him laugh, but there were several endless rows of h-a-h-a-h-h-a-h-a-h-a-h-a-h, and he said he'd burst into tears. At first, I was confused, because I didn't realize what was so funny. But then he explained me. Luckily, he couldn't see all the shades of red my face started switching to. Too long did not read. I've said my brother was making pain in my ass all the time. Hello stepbrother. In Dutch, Flemish, we have a saying, met een a in de broek zitten. Having an egg in your pants, which means you're afraid of something. My wife keeps incorrectly saying it as, met een a in uw gat zitten. Having an egg in your ass, although I've been correcting her for over 10 years. Made perfect sense to me as I've seen Borat. I hope he's not making pain in your ass anymore. With knowing in advance that English is not your first language, I completely read that sentence as it was intended. How old is your match? Reading this today I fucked up was a pain in the ass. Don't worry. This is the kind of constructionist native speakers have come across a dozen times 100% he instantly understood what you meant. It's an amusing, even cute, mistake, not one you need to feel embarrassed about. This sounds familiar. Today I fucked up by sleeping with a classmate. Obligatory. This happened a year and a few months ago. Me, 22M, and a, now ex, friend, 18F, struck up a mutual FWB relationship in college. We met about once or twice a week for a few weeks after we both just got out of long relationships that ended poorly. We broke it off after a few weeks was over but remained friends and communicated regularly, even to where she came to my side defending me against people accusing me of grooming her even after we stopped meeting up. A few weeks later she admitted she had feelings for me after not talking to me for a few days and in an intense argument. I told her I wasn't going to be able to date her for a variety of reasons, mainly being I'm much closer to graduating than she was and we aren't in the same stage of life. She cut all communication after that other than insulting me regularly in group chats, referencing our situation, and outright lying to our mutual friends about what happened. After a few times of her doing this over the coming months, I privately reached out to her to tell her to stop. She continued. After 3 times of this, I reached out again and got no response. Instead, she halted all communication in all of the groups we were in for 2 days. A few days after I sent my email to her asking her to stop talking about me, I get a notice from the Title IX office at my school. She turned me in and accused me of sexual assault and harassment. I was assigned a lawyer by my school via Title IX procedures to act as my advisor. I couldn't explain what was going on to anyone. I felt like I was going insane to the point where I got hospitalized for a few days because there was no end in sight for everything going on. I was left, and was later kicked out of, one group and limited my interaction in the other at my lawyer's advice, at least until the Title IX trial, which is held by the state with 6 official judges from the local county acting as the jury. I submitted all evidence I had of her trying to smear my name, including our conversation all those months ago when things went wrong, all insults she sent over to me, and any communication we had since the alleged incidents. The trial happened about 8 months after the situation ended and I was pronounced innocent after she admitted she made the whole thing up in this mock court. However, I'm still dealing with the repercussions over a year later. These groups I used to be in are actively targeting me and using me as the butt of jokes. My false accuser is still in these groups and has turned public opinion so far against me that I've been officially banned from these groups. I had to delete my Reddit account because I took moderation action against one of their mods and they doxed me while sending a harassment campaign towards me. It got so bad they were taking pictures of my family and posting it on their forum for laughs. I finally graduated a month or so ago and I can finally begin to move on. Too long did not read. I slept with a classmate in a FWB agreement. We had an argument. A few months later she accused me of sexual assault and now my social circle shrank from over 150 to under 6. Nobody believes me when I tell them how serious this got, and there's nothing I can do legally since she's got no assets and lawyers won't take a case where there's nothing to compensate me if I do win. No one else is bothered by her making shit up to ruin this guy's life and getting away with it? Nothing is stated where there are repercussions for her for making shit up that is this serious. How the fuck does a 22-year-old groom a 19-year-old adult? I don't think they know what that word means. Sounds like a great time to start over. Somehow. Good luck to you. Sounds like you definitely got shafted. You learned a very important lesson. Let girls down easy. Another important lesson. Don't stick your dick in crazy. Unrelated. Off topic. But you went from 150 friends to 6? 150 friends is impressive. I've rarely ever had more than 6 friends. Wait. You can just falsely accuse someone of sexual harassment without proof and have no repercussions doing it? I'm missing something, right? I'm sure it can't be this simple. Sex releases oxytocin, which tends to bond humans together emotionally from the act. Some, well, just get bonded like Gorilla Glue and have a real hard time being rational later. Just FYI, in theory at least you can file your own Title X complaint against her. Today I fucked up by reading too much about my wife's condition. So for starters, my wife, 24, and I, also 24, have been married since we were 21, met when we were 16 and dating since age 20. I know we were young, whatever, that's irrelevant. Just months before we started dating, my wife suffered an extremely severe tonic-clonic seizure and subsequent coma, and thus began a long string of medical complications and doctor's visits with basically zero diagnoses. A year into our marriage, she suffered another grand mal seizure after a few weeks of light myoclonic seizures. After the second big seizure, we were fortunate to meet with some world-class neurologists and get her diagnosed with a rare form of epilepsy. However, in these instances, rare usually just means, we really don't know what is causing this. Because many of the scans used to diagnose epilepsy need to be scanning the brain during the seizure, and because her seizures were so rare, we didn't have a good opportunity to pin down which specific seizure disorder she was suffering from. She was placed on medication which seemed to end the myoclonic seizures, quick, waking spasms in only one muscle or muscle group, and left us very hopeful. We were told by the doctors that although scary, the seizures were harmless, and that she most likely would see no other long-term health problems, and if medicated she may never have another seizure again. I felt such a relief knowing that the seizures were being treated and that they wouldn't threaten her life. In the 2 years since we have been so happy and have been really enjoying the first years of our marriage, traveling, making big plans, dreaming about our kids, etc. About 2 days ago she noticed some slight muscle spasms and difficulty walking. This came as a shock because she is on seizure medications and shouldn't be feeling those symptoms. Because it's the weekend we haven't been able to see a neurologist yet, but being the med student and inquisitive person I got to researching about her specific symptoms. In the past, we were so ignorant about epilepsy that we didn't really know how to even research because we were unfamiliar with all the medical jargon. But I have since begun studying medicine and done extensive research into different forms of epilepsy, and I wanted to be prepared in case another seizure occurred. Well, until 2 days ago my wife had not experienced myoclonic seizures since she got on medication, so I had no reason to research about them. Today, while researching how to treat myoclonic seizures, I discovered that almost all forms of progressive myoclonic epilepsy come with a dramatically shortened lifespan as well as severe cognitive and motor decline. Some people die as quickly as 8 years after symptoms begin. Now, my wife has not been diagnosed this specifically, so I do not yet know for certain if she has a progressive disorder or just simple epilepsy. However, all of her symptoms match a progressive diagnosis, and one key trait is that medication stops being effective at preventing the myoclonic seizures after a year or so. Well, here we are, 2 years on medication, with seizures coming back. I know I'm not a doctor and I really hope that this is a case of hypochondria by proxy, but the reality is that I am well versed in medicine now and it seems that her disorder has all the markers of being progressive. I was sitting next to her on the couch when I read this and had to fight back tears because I didn't want to say anything to her. One of the triggers for seizures is extreme stress, and I couldn't bring myself to tell her what I had discovered for fear it would worsen her condition and also put her in intense emotional turmoil. I also don't want to diagnose her before a neurologist can, on the chance that I am wrong. However, now every time I enter a room with her all I can think about is how long we have left, and I have to stifle the tears again and hide my face and try to avoid speaking so she won't hear my voice crack. We are already in mountains of medical debt, and thinking about watching my very best friend and the angel of my life deteriorate physically and mentally until she dies is breaking my heart to the point that I just don't know what to do. And I can't even talk to her about it. The only reason I'm writing this is because I can't tell anyone about it. I'm just angry at everything and I don't know how I can hide it till her next appointment. Too long did not read. I researched a little too hard and found out my wife probably has a very severe fatal illness that she doesn't know about yet, and now I have to fake a smile until a doctor can diagnose her and we can begin grieving. Update. I'm crying like a baby in the bathroom reading all of your replies. Thank you to everyone who expressed warm wishes or offered prayers on our behalf. I know that this diagnosis I've made isn't real, and honestly even just a few hours and a few good comments later and I feel much more hopeful. Even if this isn't a progressive disease, we still have a long road ahead, and y'all can rest assured my wife is included and is the deciding voice in every health discussion we have. Thanks again for all the support and for listening to a very scared man with no one else to open up to. I gave up looking up medical advice online and through studies. I had 3 open heart surgeries 23 years ago due to a heart defect. According to Google and many articles I should have died when I was 18. I'm now 23 and according to my cardiologist I'll live to be an old person. Always consult a doctor before trusting anything online, no matter the source. Saves a lot of emotions. I'm saying this not to be an asshole, but seriously, if she has a bunch of medical debt, you'll probably need this. Load up on life insurance. If she hasn't been diagnosed officially yet, you can truthfully answer the questions about being diagnosed with a terminal disease. Also remember, life insurance isn't part of the estate. Don't put it in a joint account. Most banks will give you a couple of $1000s in insurance for no cost. Put $100 in multiple banks and sign up for this. Costs little, but adds up. Please be strong for her and don't tell her anything before you speak with the neurologist. And try to deflect all the anxiety by turning it into making the happiest memories with her. For example, my mother has a kidney transplant of 11 years and on average they last 10 years, with more cases arising of people outliving them, better medicine, etc. When I found that fact out it devastated me, but I said, fuck it, and I try to have really good times whenever I can with her because life is too short to be worrying the what-ifs. For what's it worth, I'll pray for you and your wife's health and wish y'all the best. Hey, you should post in epilepsy if you want some more advice. I would recommend rephrasing, softening some of the worst case scenarios you're describing before posting, but it's a really great community and partners and family are welcome. I have a pretty rare form of epilepsy as well, and I already encountered some people on the sub with the same kind. I also have a brain tumor which I catastrophized, but everything ended up being okay. A lot of us have uncontrolled seizures and are still living a functional life. I'll see you there if you end up posting, and if not, I wish good health to both of you. Step away from the medical websites. As someone whose husband has a severe medical issue that could lead to death sooner rather than later, you will destroy your mental health. Until your wife has a diagnosis, do not play the what-if game with yourself. And even then, limit yourself on what you read about the condition. Instead, focus on her now. Focus on living your life now. Enjoy her now. Help her find out what is going on, but leave the diagnosing to her doctors. They're not emotionally connected to her like you are, so they can be objective, and again, you will destroy your mental health if you keep trying to figure it out. I mean this with complete empathy. Stay away from the medical websites right now. My wife has epilepsy with undiagnosed triggers. They started when she was 19. She is now 36. Once they dial in the right meds, you'll be surprised at the difference in QOL. It's scary. It sucks. All you can do is be supportive. Make sure you have pictures and videos. If things do end up bad, you'll want to hear her voice and see her laugh again. If things are fine, you've got things for your kids and grandkids to look back on. Medicine is advancing every day. Plan for the worst but hope for the best. As someone with complex health problems, sending you good vibes. Make the most of every day. Even fully healthy people sometimes die young, accidents and such. So try not to dwell on the length of time she has left but the quality. There's been some good advice here so far, but I haven't seen the recommendation that you talk to a therapist or counselor if you aren't already. This sounds like a really difficult situation, and feeling like you can't fully talk to your partner about it only makes it harder. Having a compassionate but uninvolved third party to talk through all this with will probably be really helpful. I'm so sorry that your wife is starting to have these symptoms again, and I'm wishing you both the best.